In the 80s, glam metal ruled radio and MTV, and we're all aware of the biggest songs of the genre and decade. But up next, we count down 5 of the best hidden gems from the 80s. From glam metal, including interviews with key members of some of the groups on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure that you subscribe below, especially if you love the music of the golden era of music, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Don't miss exclusive interviews and stories here on the history of this era, and also look us up on Patreon to be a part of curating this grand history and to get insider access. Now, in the 80s, going into the 90s, glam metal defined the times, whether on the charts or on MTV, on the radio. Today, we count down 5 seemingly pass-over songs from the 80s, glam metal genre, that should be in more regular rotation in our lives. To clarify, since there have been confusion in the past, on radio, in playlists, on streaming apps, and in pop culture, it just seems like we hear the same 50 or 60 songs from the 80s. And here we spotlight songs that, while hits in their day, they just don't get their due. These are songs that deserve rediscovery, even discovery in some cases. Let's get into it. Number 5, a band that had 2 major hits, a ballad and a rocker, that helped their first 2 albums go platinum. Plus, they had a singer who tragically passed away at just 47 years of age. Warrant came onto the scene with a lot to prove, having been turned down by many labels. Their first release is our hidden gem, Down Boys. It was the first single off their 1989 debut, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinkin' Rich, in 89, like I said. Written and sung by the late frontman, Jani Lane. Down Boys became the nickname for the band. Down Boys was sonically one of the heaviest tracks for Warrant. The sentiment of the track reflected Jani's story of growing up in Akron, Ohio, and dreaming of being a down boy. You know, one of the wild street kids in New York or LA who head out at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I had a great rap with original Warrant members Joey and Eric, the guitarists, where we discussed the early days of the band, and they shared a funny story about the song. Do you remember the first time that you guys heard your song on the radio?
My first time was I was in my car, and I had, my dad worked for this really cool stereo manufacturer, so I had this radio that lit up like a city block, right? And I remember sitting in the car, and I had the tape, and I turned my car on, and Down Boys was on, and I'm like, I kind of want to hear this. You know what I mean? I've heard it too much, And I went to push eject, and it was the radio.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, wow, there you go.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I just got chills, man.
But that's what happened with me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I listened to it one more time. I didn't turn it off. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Now, I remember that my memory's not that great, but I do remember walking down Melrose Boulevard, doing some shopping or whatever, and cars drive by and hear music blasting out of this car. I remember hearing a car drove by and they were blasting Big Talk. And I was like, wow, yeah. I'm like, wow, that's cool. Cranking our song.
Probably the one time anybody played Warrant in LA.
Right?
Down Boys reached number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100, not bad, and number 13 on the mainstream rock chart in 89. Man, I remember me and my group of friends, we used to blast this song, laying claim to being the Down Boys of Blackfoot, Idaho. Back in the day when we thought we were really cool, but in hindsight, really awkward and lame. Number 4, the 4th single from the epic 1989 album Dr. Feelgood, one of those famous parentheses songs, if you will. Mötley Crüe's Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. Bassist Nikki Sixx and lead guitarist Mick Mars co-authored this tongue-in-cheek tune about dealing with a breakup by focusing on the good times of a relationship. If you subscribe to the karmic philosophy that all things must pass, why not dwell on the good times you experience together instead of being consumed by hurt and anger when the inevitable happens? It's a much healthier way to sever the ties. And I'm sure for Mötley Crüe, a guilt-free way to play the field if you can get your ex to buy into it. knowing Mötley Crüe. Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away is blanketed with the acoustic and electric guitar superpose. The layering of the acoustic riff and the power chords is a really cool production component that adds to the musical depth of the arrangement. This is such a great song. It's also got that clever, unorthodox pre-chorus of "That's all right, that's okay, let's turn the page." That's all right, that's okay. The pre-chorus is key to grabbing the listener since the big sing-along chorus comes in late in the song, dominating the outro following Mick's guitar solo in the bridge and Vince Neil's whistling and shouting, "I say it one more time." It's clever songwriting where it really feels like it has two great choruses. The Dr. Feelgood album was just one of the greatest glam metal rock records of the 20th century. It sold over 6 million units. I mean, the title track can kickstart my heart. They, of course, get most of the attention since the record's release in '89, but we wanted to remind people how much fun it is to jam to Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. I also really dug the ballad Without You on that. Really just a great album all the way through. It's one of those albums that I remember counting the days until it was released. I mean, knowing from MTV well in advance when it was coming out, which is truly a lost art in the digital age. I mean, something to look forward to indeed. I remember sloughing school to travel down to the Music Land and the mall, waiting for hours in the early morning for them to open the gate, get my hands on this treasure of glam metal. I can still remember how it felt in my hands. The song was a pretty healthy crossover hit. It peaked at number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100, went to number 13 on the mainstream rock chart. Nikki Sixx heard the expression, "Don't go away mad, just go away," I guess while watching a movie, and thought it would be a great title for a song. He says he doesn't remember which movie it was, but it's likely the 1986 Clint Eastwood war movie Heartbreak Ridge.
Don't go away, man. Just go away.
The sarcastic expression was also featured in the chorus of Blondie's song, Just Go Away, a cut from their epic LP Parallel Lines in '78.
Don't go away, man. Just go away.
Number 3, a band that would figure into the great mainstream metal takeover of 1989, where it seemed like every week on the charts there were at least 2 or 3 metal songs in the Billboard Top 10. Great White, best known for their cover of Once Bitten, Twice Shy, but my hidden gem choice here is Rock Me, which was the breakout track for Great White in 1987. The original version of Rock Me clocks in at over 7 minutes, with the edited version for Radio gutting it down to less than 4 minutes. Definitely recommend the 7-minute version. Lead guitarist Mark Kendall was the primary lyricist, along with a shared writing credit, Jack Russell, Michael Lardy, and band manager Alan Nevin. Rock Me climbed to number 9 at mainstream rock. Like I said, though, in the Great White discography, Rock Me is always overshadowed by the top 5 remake of Ian Hunter's Once Bitten, Twice Shy. But it's just an underappreciated endorphin rush from that era that deserves a revival. Professor of Rock Zoom session in just a little while ago, Mark Kendall and I talked about the creation and the legacy of Rock Me. As we go into this interview, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. These are the glasses that I rock every single day. I've got the black pair that kind of look like Buddy Holly. You can go to Zenni.com, get your own frames, sunglasses, or their famous blue blocks where they protect your eyes from digital blue light. Go to Zenni.com and get yourself a pair. Here's Mark.
We were just a trio with a lead singer, bass, guitar, drums, singer. And, I was trying to write heavy stuff, So it had really not a lot to do with my influences. So before we did Once Bitten, Well, before that, when you did our independent second album, it was just on our own. It's called Shot in the Dark. In between songs, while we were recording, I'd play like Alvin Lee. I'd play some bluesy Johnny Winter thing. And what happened was the manager would hear that, and he started to think, you should be playing that, not this forced heavy metal thing or whatever you're doing. So when he gave me the freedom to do anything I want, that's when I started coming with things like Rock Me. I go, I can play anything I want. Oh man, this opens up my whole world, because I was trying, I'm trying to be like the Scorpions and Judas Priest, but now that I can just, because I'm influenced by Carlos Santana, Johnny Winter, Alvin Lee, Richie Blackmore, you know what I mean? Here I'm trying to be heavy metal boy. I mean, it's not sounding like we're heavy metal, but.
What do you remember about writing it?
I had no drummer around, so I had this thing where I wanted to keep the groove going, so I was playing that bass note, while I was going bam, dum, bam, dam, bam, dam, do, 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 do. So I kind of was going along that line. And Michael kind of came up, we kind of wrote together, Michael and I wrote most of the music for the band, and he came up with that cool B section, that pre-chorus, which is really sweet. So yeah, that the other thing, when I heard that back in the studio, because you never know if people are going to like it. But when I heard it back and the record company was there and stuff, oh man, this sounds pretty good. It sounds like, and it really felt good. Not just because it felt good, because I was playing, like I said, I was being honest with the music. I wasn't trying to be anything. I was just letting myself be free, come up, try to, what's in my head, try to get it to the guitar, and when that happened and I was listening back to that song in the studio, it was, like I said, you never know if it's going to be a hit, but it sounded pretty good to me.
At number 2, a band that Great White guitarist Mark Kendall was influenced by, Dokken, with In My Dreams. Many, including Mark Kendall, claim that Dokken lead guitarist George Lynch started two-hand tapping before Eddie Van Halen did, although Lynch himself denies it. There is no disputing, however, that George Lynch is a revered guitarist, especially during the glam metal era. Guitar World actually named Lynch one of the 100 greatest guitarists of all time, and Gibson Guitars included him on their list of the top 10 metal guitarists of all time. Vocalist Don Dokken met George Lynch when Lynch was in the band Exciter with drummer Mick Brown. Don convinced Lynch and Brown to join him to form the nucleus of Dokken after some early lineup shuffling. The debut Dokken record, Breaking the Chains, that came out in '83, sold modestly, but it sprinkled future promise for the group. Their second LP, Tooth and Nail, progressed the band to gold status, but it was the third album, Under Lock and Key, that boosted Dokken to platinum stature. The second single from the record was the glam metal gem, In My Dreams. I love this song.
In my dreams, it's still the same.
The track stalled at number 77 on the Billboard Hot 100, but it was a solid winner at Mainstream Rock. It climbed to number 24. In My Dreams was credited as a co-write between the four band members, Don Dokken, George Lynch, Jeff Pilson, and Mick Brown. Don Dokken wrote the lyrics to In My Dreams while he was on vacation in Mexico. Apparently he had his acoustic guitar with him, sitting on the beach enjoying the beauty of the ocean.
In my dreams, what can I
The scenery and a clear head gave Don a therapeutic vista to get into a creative realm. Glad he did. He scrolled down the lyrics and invented the riff of In My Dreams in less than an hour. Now, the music video for In My Dreams was directed by Wayne Isham, who was the it director for music videos in the 80s and 90s. He working with a variety of top acts. There was Mötley Crüe and Bon Jovi, even Whitney Houston, Bryan Adams, Def Leppard. the Stones, even Ozzy. Isham's video really captured the essence of Dokken's Guy Loses Girl composition with over-the-top 80s glam rock imagery. It's so much fun to reflect back on. I love those old videos, those glam metal videos from that day. The video, of course, melodramatic with scenes of fire and scenes of rain, the flames symbolizing the burning desire in his mind, and the rain signifying the wet dreariness of his real life. Don Dokken pining for his lost love, kicking his long fringy leather coat and his black hat with the metallic silver band. George Lynch shredding, rain-drenched and shirtless. In My Dreams is still the same. Your love is strong, but still remains. In reality, the dude may have lost the girl, but they're still together in his dreams. I know, In My Dreams, people would say is formulaic and rather predictable, but I love it. It's so dang catchy. And Dokken, Lynch, Pilson, and Brown are irresistibly good at crafting a melodic rocker. You cannot get the hook of In My Dreams out of your head. Go try it. Despite the success of 3 platinum albums during their 8 years together, the volcanic relationship between Dokken and Lynch forced the band to split up in the spring of '89. At the height of their popularity, Lynch quit the group several times, and when he returned to the lineup, he and Don Dokken were so hostile to one another that they couldn't work in the same room at the same time. The animosity made it intensely difficult and very expensive to record music. Don described George as a miserable human being. George called Don an egomaniac. Given their hatred for one another when they were bandmates, it's amazing, though, that Dokken lasted as long as it did. We wish it would have lasted longer. But after the collapse, Don Dokken went solo. George Lynch, of course, assembled his band, the Lynch Mob. Neither came close to the level of prosperity that they had as Dokken, though. Don got back with Lynch and Pilson for a few Dokken reunion shows in Japan and one in America in 2016. But the reunion was short-lived and didn't amount to much anything further. Jeff Pilson is currently the bassist for the revamped Foreigner, and Mick Brown is officially retired right now. At number 1, this is a band that's first 2 albums were as good as any band on the scene and one of my favorite songs of the year 1989. Comin' Home by Cinderella. Lead singer Tom Kiefer envisioned this power ballad as a vehicle to transition Cinderella into a more blues rock direction, to avoid being trapped in a trendy hair metal, glam metal pigeonhole. The inclusion of a more personal, organic approach is apparent from the outset. Comin' Home begins with Kiefer strumming a 12-string acoustic guitar flowing into a pensive, unaffected vocal that gives us a new appreciation for Tom Kiefer's just innate singing prowess.
I took a walk down a road, it's the road I was meant to stay.
I took a walk down a road, it's the road I was meant to stay. I see the fire in your eyes, but a man's got to make his way. So are you tough enough for my love? Just close your eyes to the heaven above. I'm coming home.
So are you tough enough for my love?
Phenomenal song. Kiefer wrote Comin' Home about the monotony of endless touring, where an artist only knows what city they're playing in by reading the notes that the tour manager writes on the top of the set list. It's taped to the floor of the stage in front of a microphone. I mean, there is irony in an artist's journey. The more cities you hit, the more everything seems the same. As Tom's lyric goes, I took a ride in a world I'll be spinning for the rest of my life. When I was growing up, I distinctly remember somebody on the radio saying that this song was about a man who was falsely convicted and sent to prison, and after a few years, he finally gets out due to new evidence that proves his innocence, and that this song is him writing a letter to his lover, telling her that he's finally coming home. I tell you, I've searched the internet for years trying to track this story down, but I've never found anything. My first thought was that maybe it was someone who went through that and was dedicating the song to their lover, like Casey Kasem's long-distance dedications. Though by the time this song peaked, Casey Kasem was no longer the host of American Top 40. If anyone watching this has heard the same story, let me know in the comments, because I've always been searching this, because I remember somebody saying that on the radio, even though that may not be a story. Coming Home was released as the third single from Cinderella's second studio LP, Long Cold Winter, from 1988, following their triple platinum debut, Night Song's incredible. Although the band was making a calculated move to evolve their sound, it's the combination of the minimalist, bluesy beginning of the track and the transition into Kiefer's distinctive growling for the chorus that gives, Coming Home it makes it such a special song. I want to talk about that for a second. Tom Kiefer has a one-of-a-kind voice. I've always loved it. So emotive, so powerful. I mean, he can flat out wail, but he still conveys a subtlety and a softness.
I see the fire in your eyes, but a man's gotta make it.
The dynamics in the first verse of this song, and then a few seconds later, he punches it, going from like 2 to 11 in seconds. Kiefer is definitely one of the truly underappreciated singers of this era. I hope to someday interview him. It would be incredible. I love his voice. This song has always left me just completely enthralled. It's just a magnificent blend of bluesy layered guitars, multiple voices that raise the song to a level that not many in the genre reached. The goal of Tom Kiefer for this song to be a vehicle to transition Cinderella into a more blues rock direction to avoid being trapped in a trend was definitely achieved. The density of this composition is broad and complex in scope. It sounds incredible today, and I think it'll be a lasting emblem. That went over and above the times it came from. AC/DC's Bon Scott famously saying, "If you want to be a star of stage and screen, look out, it's rough and mean." Tom Kiefer lived that ethos for sure. He had that fighting spirit to grapple with challenges, the challenges of being a rock star. His aggressive, snarling vocal manifested his intrepid ambition on heavy tracks like Shake Me and Shelter Me, and on power ballads like Nobody's Fool and Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone. But his balls-to-the-wall singing style and cursory lifestyle took its toll on his body. In the early 90s, Kiefer suffered through a paralyzed vocal cord that nearly decimated his voice. Medical experts said that he would never sing again. But they didn't know this guy. He's a fighter. After undergoing several surgeries, Tom was determined to rebound. He had to completely relearn how to sing while protecting his instrument against permanent damage. Tom developed a more natural style to his vocals and instilled a pre-show regimen that included deliberate warm-up exercises. In 2017, Kiefer faced a more serious situation when he was rushed to urgent care because of a life-threatening heart issue. Tom bore his soul about these frightening periods of his life in his song, The Death of Me, incredible song, written for his solo album Rise in 2019. The Death of Me is an inspirational track to help fans deal with and overcome adversity. Great song for right now. Just like Coming Home is a feel-good gem about hope and rejuvenation. So there you have it. 5 hidden glam metal gems from the 80s. Leave us a comment about these artists and their songs. What are some other hidden gems from this genre and this decade that you think that we should feature here? If you like this content, we do invite you to become a subscriber. Hit the bell so you never miss out. And make sure to click on our Patreon link for more content and to become a real supporter of this cause of helping us keep the music alive. It's very important. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.